presentation notes of what was going on. This one was the Air Force one, so it's going to be a little off script, but we'll be following kind of in this order of people who did get this one. It sounded like that we ran out, so we'll continue on this route. And the first person I'm going to come up and speak will be Chaplain Sylvia, and she is going to start with a prayer and then speak. Thank you.
Well, it's good to see everyone here. This is indicative of how much Rick was loved and respected. You know, I'm reminded of a story I heard. A man was going for his doctorate, and he went to a Native American village and spent 6 months to do his thesis for his doctorate. And when he was ready to leave, a little woman, shriveled up, little elderly woman, came up to him and said, "You know, sir, I like me better when I'm with you." And that is the way I think all of us felt about Rick. We liked ourselves better when we were around him. One of our past presidents, John Quincy Adams, in his later years met a friend of his walking down the road, and he said, "Sir, how's John Quincy Adams today?" He said, "Well, John Quincy's fine." But he said, "You know, this home is starting to wear." He said, "I've got less thatch on the roof that I used to have, and the underpinning is not as good." And he said, "It would not surprise me if John did not have to move out by the end of winter." The Bible talks about our bodies being a tent. John Quincy looked at him and he said, "Though I might have to move out of this house, John Quincy Adams has never been better. Never been better. I know this. I believe Rick has never been better than he is today." When this tent starts to decay, the Bible says we have a permanent home. You know, tents are great when you're camping, but they're permanent. There comes a time when you really want to go home. And that time for us came too early for Rick. But I don't believe God makes mistakes. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we come before you, we've come to celebrate Rick's life. We thank you, Father, that your Spirit brings comfort to each and every relative and acquaintance and worker. We also thank you for the privilege of knowing him, for indeed our lives are richer for being part of his. So we ask for your Spirit to come and minister to each heart, and we honor you in this, and we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain, that my father always enjoyed her prayers at all the different events with search and rescue, so thank you. So I want to thank everybody for attending Rick Buckreis' celebration of life, that my mother, Judith Buckreis, my uncle, Robert Buckreis, his son, Robert Buckreis Jr., and Robin Dalton, his brother-in-law, all appreciate everybody attending today. I know that my father affected so many lives because he was always giving back to the community, and by seeing so many faces here really showed how much he influenced so many people's lives. That he donated thousands of hours of time to over dozens of organizations over the last 40 years here in Southern California. His main volunteer group was the Kern County Desert Search and Rescue Group. where he spent almost 20 years as a volunteer and over 15 years as an admin lieutenant for the team. That he received 2 major volunteer awards in his lifetime. The first one was the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, the Lifetime Award, which to be qualified for that award, you have to have over 4,000 documented volunteer hours. The second award was the Air Force Volunteer Excellent Award for his volunteer efforts at Edwards and the surrounding communities in the 30 years at the president of that award. And that award was established to recognize federal civilians, family members, military retirees, and federal retirees who performed outstanding volunteer community service and can be only presented once in someone's lifetime. He was quoted when he received this award that I really think a lot of people would appreciate hearing because it really sounds like him and his motives. He said, "I really didn't expect this. This is an award that you hear about, and I've only known one person who's received this award in my lifetime. When you volunteer your time, it is not about what you get. It's about what you're giving. So to be recognized like this is an honor," said Buckreis. "At the end of the day, though, it's not what I did it for. Someone saying thank you means a lot more than anything else. And I hope that the time I spend volunteering encourages the younger generation and others to want to carry down the same path. I know several people in this room that spent their time volunteering to many organizations and groups because my father put that as a priority. And I know even myself that he influenced me at a younger age to volunteer, that by the age of 21, I also received the Presidential Volunteer Service Award Lifetime Award. So I know that I've continued down his path and know others have that are in this room. That in the last 48 hours of his life that luckily I was able to spend a majority of the time with, that he volunteered with 3 different organizations that I know directly or indirectly affected over 1,000 people's lives. On the Friday before, he was leading the Boron Food Pantry here, literally in this room, that there was over 200 families that attended that got food that day. And after the event that he personally drove around to over a dozen people who were either housebound or too ill to come in to gather food. And then the next day he played Santa at the 20 Meal Team Museum for at least the 36th year in a row. And there was 75 kids and their family that attended that event. And then that evening was the Boron Christmas Parade, where he worked with Search and Rescue to make sure that there was coverage on the parade, to make sure nobody interfered with the parade route. And then he got onto the fire department truck and played Santa during the parade. And there was at least over 200 people that attended that parade. And then the next day, he worked with a local community leader that the excess food from the Friday before went to other local communities to make sure that the food did not go to waste. Over the years, especially through his volunteering and network, he made a lot of friends and family. My dad used to say, if you could count on one hand all your true friends, that you were a rich person. My mom and I, when we made the call of what happened, we had more than 5 people that took that call and made a difference. That I had people coming, moving hay for animals to be fed that week. I had people coming and comforting the family. I had people coming to help make sure the process with my father went smoothly. And there could have been people that would just receive that call and did nothing. But I had more than 5 people respond. And so I believe that my dad was a rich person. I want to say a few special thank yous to individuals and groups. The first group I want to thank is the Desert Search and Rescue Unit, which are the men and women in orange. that they definitely were a second family to my father and also to my mother and I. That they helped in multiple ways, including for myself of getting over my first responder survivor guilt of what happened that day. Then I want to thank the Boron Senior Citizens Center that we're at right now, that when I made the call to see if dates were available, and once we settled on a date and time, I knew that this place, got rented out. I asked how much is owed. I was told that because my dad spent hours and hundreds of hours here fixing the building, fixing plumbing, volunteering with the food pantry, they said no, it would be our honor to host the event. So I greatly appreciate them honoring my father in this way. And I know personally he would have came if he was here today to say thank you for what you did. I don't see the Kern County Fire Department here, but I do want to thank them for what they did, because they did not just relieve me from doing CPR on my father and tried to help resuscitate him, but they also made sure that they stayed and comforted the family and made sure the process to deal with my father went smoothly with the coroner, that they definitely went above and beyond what they needed to do. And that the shift that worked on him was also the same shift that worked with him at the Boron Christmas Parade. And they were in shock. They never would have thought that the next day they were going to work on him. Because of him just being all happy, healthy, it took everybody by surprise. So these groups were not just families to my father, but also to myself and my mother. That we greatly appreciate everybody who has helped make this process a lot smoother. And I want to thank a few individuals that helped the family, including Jim Osborne, Sandy Osborne, Tex Thomas, Savannah Hill, Carol Ann Thomas, Dylan Thomas, Dan Thomas, and Jill Green. I also want to put a special thanks to Tracy McCoy Wilner. She's not here today, but she was definitely my dad's right-hand woman at Edwards, and she definitely helped move mountains for us at Edwards and helped set up the Edwards Air Force Celebration of Life event. And I also want to thank 4 outstanding family members who are here. That Alan Wessel has been my right-hand man of just being a jack of many trades, being able to send out notices of what happened and follow-up emails. He's definitely been carrying on, taking up, working with Desert Search and Rescue, making sure grants keep on flowing, because, that definitely was a priority for my dad, since he made sure that the team would get, we've reached over $1 million in the last decade of grant writing, and he definitely would not want the grants to stop because of him. So definitely coordinating, getting files and everything, we definitely made sure that was going on. And then also, I want to thank Billy Thomas, that he has definitely been like a bigger brother to me in my life, but he's been my left-hand man of helping, doing everything, especially dealing with the animals that we had to deal with, of making sure they got sold, one thing or another. So it's helped the family in quite a different ways. The third person I want to thank is David Hill. He has been kind of my front man always, definitely helping my mom when my dad was out of town. If anything came up on the property or needed his help, he was there, and he has continued that help after my dad's passing. And last but not least, I want to thank Michelle Slade, who's had my back. Definitely making sure if anything I might have forgotten, or made sure that I was doing, because she had just recently gone through this process right before me. So now I want to bring up Casper from the 412 test wing that my dad worked with.
So actually, my name is Crosby.
Crosby, I'm sorry.
You're fine. So as of yesterday, I was the Deputy Director of Public Affairs and had the joy of working with Rick for about 4 years. So kind of what was kind of going through my mind driving up here today was the impact that he had at Edwards Air Force Base. He worked there for over about 40 years. He did so many wonderful things in the graphic shops, but the part that made me the most excited was just hearing all of the stories that were shared and the life stories that had happened through Edwards Air Force Base and what happened. while he was there. Now, most of the times, people talked about how wonderful of a man he was, how caring he was, how sweet he was, how nice he was, but I got to see a different side of Rick that you never did. Now, sure, he was a sweet, kind, and caring man, but that man was a trickster and a jokester, and I didn't understand it for a very long time. And so I was always confused. I'm like, I came from, into Edwards Air Force Base, and I'm excited to learn the mission, to see what things are about. He made everything as absolutely difficult as possible, and I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this? And so one of my favorite stories was I was walking down the hall and I needed to get a password for a computer. And so I walked up there. I was like, Rick, Rick was our, he did everything. I know you were talking about how much he did. This man literally did everything in our building. He took care of every single door, every single toilet. If the light was out, it didn't matter what it was, he was on it. He didn't care. So I was like, hey, I need a password. He's like, you're not authorized. And I was like, I don't think you know who I am. Like, what do you mean I'm not authorized? He's like, you're not authorized. And I'm just like, so I go in to ask somebody else, like, you know he's just messing with you, right? And I was like, okay, cool. So I go back to him again. He's like, here's this password. I'm like, okay, why did this have to be a thing? And I was like, all right, whatever. So a couple months goes by, and I was like, hey, I need business cards. I'm heading to D.C. for an event. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. And I was like, by the way, I said, I also need another set. So I'm submitting 2 different orders at the same time. One was for me, and one was for another guy who worked on base. And he's like, all right, cool, not a problem. Yours are going to take 6 weeks. His will be a couple weeks. But we need this. We need the same. It's literally the same thing, but just a different name on the card. I don't know. He's like, sorry, we're backed up. I said, but why are his going to take 2 weeks and mine are going to take like 6? He goes, I don't know, just how things landed. I'm like, I literally sent this email. I sent the email at the same time. What do you mean? He's like, sorry. And so again, I'm just kind of just taking it back, whatever. The next morning I show up and there's a stack of cards on my desk, and I was just like, why are you doing this? But the remarkable thing about him is how much he cared, and it's evident here with everybody who showed up today to pay their respects and to enjoy his life. And it kind of got me thinking, just about life and the importance of people. I'm gonna start crying right now because it's so important to me. It's just the value that you put into people. And the legacy that you leave, it's more important about what they walk away after meeting you, and the stories that you can share, from them, and the care that they show, and it was remarkable to me. It was about 4 days before he had passed away. We all went out bowling together, and just his care, and just how much he cared about people. When he talked about people, he cared, and it was so weird when you would see that side of him compared to the jokester, strict, his call sign was Grinch for a reason, and when I was talking to Colonel Caspers, who is the vice commander of our base, he had asked me the question, he goes, why is his call sign Grinch? And I was like, well, have you ever seen the movie? And he's like, well, yeah. I was like, have you read the stories? He's like, yeah. I said, super hard exterior. He walked up, he's just like, hi. He's back to his computer, didn't know what to do. And but then you would talk to him, and you realize his heart was this big. And again, everybody who showed up today knows that. Everybody who here has experienced that firsthand. That he will drop anything for you. And one of my last wonderful memories with him is I called him up and I was like, hey, I know you live close by, and my keys are locked in my office and nobody else is in the building. And he's like, not a problem. I'm on my way to Vegas, so I'll be back in a couple hours, and I'll be able to come open it for you. And that was all. That's like 3 hours away, and you're gonna be. Am I staying the night here? And his wife shows up like 45 minutes later, just, hey guys, I got my key, and I open the door, and So I hope the legacy that he's left, you understand the importance of people, and you understand the importance of caring, and you understand the importance of making sure that you are pouring yourself out to people, because a job is a job, and time is time, but your life and your legacy is the most important thing that you can leave behind. So when you talk with people, when you share with people, when you encourage people, remember that you are leaving a legacy with them. And give them something thoughtful to think about when you walk away from those conversations. Remember, because the idea is your purpose. What is your purpose in this life? And your purpose is people, your purpose is legacy, and your purpose is making an impact on this world. It may be very small. It may be so small, like this little community that's here. Like, I always drove through Boron. I didn't know what Boron was. I had to look it up on the map. I'd seen exits for it, and I'm like, where's Boron? You know, I drive here to go to Vegas, you know, and I know it's near Edwards Air Force Base, you know, and it got me thinking about purpose. And it got me thinking about, like, why are we here on this earth? Why has God put us here? And I think that's for what he realized in himself is to give back, and it's to care. And I actually bought more, you know, Christmas socks today in his honor, because it was the weirdest thing in the entire world. Our first Christmas party, he walks in as Santa Claus, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, because I came from corporate world where they, you know, they hand out a card and they say, see you later, and he shows up in, you know, as Santa, and he's like, sit on my lap, we're taking pictures, and I was like, I barely know you, but okay. So there's a picture, I don't have it with me, but there's a picture of me and two other coworkers, and it's literally one of my favorite photos of us just sitting with him, and he's just got this big old grin through his big old beard. So again, I hope that, you know, the legacy that he left behind is an encouragement for us all here today to remember that we are leaving a legacy when we leave this earth. And it's so important to know that the impact that you guys have on everybody is so important. I think, again, like I said earlier, this is a testament of who Rick is. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Carson. So definitely my father was not just an Edwards Air Force Base legend, but also an Antelope Valley, Eastern Kern County legend of all his information and knowledge and resources that he shared with everybody. So the next person I'm going to call to speak is Michelle Slade. Thank you.
December 11th, 2022. Wake up at 3 a.m. Feed the animals. Maybe eat breakfast. Go back 7 months to the day. June 12th, 2022. Wake up at 3 a.m. Feed the animals. Tell Judy goodbye. See you in a little while. Sorry, Judy. He was with me until 3:05 a.m. the next day. He helped administer the morphine for my husband dying. He was there. He never even went outside, wouldn't leave me and LJ and our friends alone. I didn't know my silly husband assigned Rick to take care of a grieving widow. Next day, ding-a-ling-a-ling. How you doing? I'm fine, Rick. Get over it. I have family and friends. You need to get to work. You need to get to sleep because you didn't sleep for 24 hours. Next day, call. Rick, I'm a big girl. I own a business. I can handle it. I have family and friends. I can tell you for 3 weeks every day he called me. So, come July, I said, Rick, what you doing this weekend? I'm butchering chickens. Can I come? No, Michelle. I'm butchering kids' chickens. We're going to do it together. We did 52 chickens in one morning, Rick and I, and Judy bringing the ice because it was boiling hot. A couple months later, oh gee, it's time to butcher the turkeys. We butchered turkeys. We delivered food. On December 11th, 3 a.m., Rick is up again, feeding the animals. And then he told me, bring your truck and trailer this time. We loaded 42 chickens, 6 times 42 sweet potatoes, 42 mashed potatoes, flakes, pies, everything anyone would need for a needy family. We were out back. I said, what you gonna do now, buddy? I'm gonna put these pallets. I gotta take them to a little old lady who needs wood. I said, okay, I'll help you. No, you won't. The 94-year-old mother is in the truck. It's cold. You're gonna go home. And I walked to the truck and she said, no, we're not. We're not leaving Rick alone. So we loaded the pallets. This is hard on my sweetie. Rick didn't always tell Erica how much he loved her. Rick was not a very affectionate person. But as we were loading the pallets, he says, I want these blue ones on the very back of the trailer. I said, why? Because they're special. I'm saving these pallets to load up, to follow my baby girl wherever she goes. He didn't tell Erica that. I thought it was pretty special. But I had the privilege of 2 hours later when she called and said Dad passed, of giving her that information. She knew her dad loved her. And we all knew Rick was a great man. But from his lesson, because he always wants a lesson learned, I'm going to encourage all of you to tell somebody how special they are to you while they're here. If you want a job done, it's been said many, many times, ask the busiest person. And that was Rick. He was my buddy. And I know he accomplished everything he needed to do in life. And I'm just thankful to Desert Search and Rescue because the boots that he had to fill were way too many boots. And we're very blessed that people have stepped up to the plate and we know we're loved. And with Rick, friendship is what it's all about.
Next, I want to call up Alan Wessel, best friend of my father, but also the president.
Oops, that's weird. I put that on.
That was me, and I had it on. I had it on silent.
That's a trick phone.
I thought I did. The captain of the Desert Search and Rescue Team.
Do you want me to take you to the bathroom, Erica?
Erica, that's your dad messing with you.
I don't recognize this name.
Well, I'm Alan Wessel. All you guys have probably got the emails and updates from me that I've sent out. But a couple things that I want to just chat a little bit about Rick, but I also have some a few people that couldn't be here. They've asked me to read their ode to Rick, if you will. We have I know that some of the cards and stuff that you got, I got cards for people that I know that are here, so I'm not going to worry about that. Got a couple of cards of some people that I'm not sure if they're here or not. I should have asked you, I guess, up front.
I'll read them. Or look at them.
If either of those two people are here. If not, I'll read what they talked about. But while she's doing that, let me talk, Rick was, my best friend. I've known him for over 25 years. There wasn't a day that went by that, almost never, that either I would call him or he would call me. We spoke at least once a day. Usually it's more than that, but it was, and on those days, the few days that one of us didn't get a call from the other, that next morning, one of us was calling the other saying, "Are you okay?" Because it's like, it just doesn't happen. And, one of the hardest things I didn't realize just, how much that hit me once those phone calls stopped. Hopefully I can get through all this. It really just, emphasized that, that hole that he left, in mine and everybody else. That's why you're here. But it was, not talking to him every day and not getting his phone calls, it really sank, the realization of what had happened. But, we've all got stories, and I'm going to talk about a lot of stories, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but 'cause many of you know me that I can actually sit here and talk all day. So mentioned about, the grants and things like that. He and I were working on stuff, and I had the pleasure of having Rick in my office after after he passed, and they had him cremated and put in an urn, and I picked him up and had him in my office for a couple of days, and I spent a good day yelling at him for leaving me with all this, but at the same time, I guess I was happy that at least, he didn't suffer. There wasn't anything like that. When I got the call, I raced out there. I live in Acton. I shouldn't say this with all the cops in here, but I made it from Acton. I wasn't even home yet, so I had to go home, drop my wife off, and then come this way, and I made it in 40 minutes. So, I just couldn't believe it. But I had to be here, and I was with the family until the coroner came. Yeah, I hear you talking out there. I do drive a Tesla. But I don't drive that fast anymore, I really don't.
Too late.
Yeah. It's black in color. But anyways, I'm going to talk about some of these stories because these are as good as anything else. And is there anything there that I should?
Yeah, you can read these.
Like I said, we got several things. We got a lot of donations. We really appreciate that. I will be depositing those here beginning of next week, and I'll send out to everybody because they made it out to Desert Search and Rescue. We're a nonprofit. Will give you a receipt for that, so at least you get a tax donation. So you'll see that stuff. But a couple of the cards of people that aren't here. Boy, if I say it right, Paul, P-A-H-L family.
Yeah.
So.
Neva.
Okay, so I told the people that weren't able to make it for whatever reason, I'd read out a little bit, but that we are so sorry to hear about Rick's untimely passing. He will be very missed on the range this spring. We appreciate everything that he has done for our desert communities. We keep you all in our prayers, and they gave a donation to the team on behalf of Rick. So that was very nice of them. I'll give that to you. And the Alverson family said that they were so sorry for your loss. He was a good man. Our condolences to your family. So from the Alversons. We had a bunch of really good relationships with, all of our partners in the OHV communities. The search and rescue, if you don't know, our team would go out to and actually stage, and live basically in the desert in a place called Dove Springs, which is just a little bit north of Jawbone Canyon. And we'd go out there for days or weeks at a time, just to help the OHV motorcycle, ATV riders, side-by-sides, all that kinds of stuff. It started because over the big weekends, we would actually get call-outs, like 3 and 4, sometimes in a day, you know, and all we're doing is driving back and forth. It's like, why are we doing this? Why don't we set up camp? Why don't we, you know, start just going out there for all the big weekends? And, you know, we're there because they're to help. At the same time, our family, okay, is all here and in support of each other. So we do this so that we can enjoy ourselves when things are slow, but we're there to provide the support that everybody needed. And I can tell you, you know, Rick was a key part of that. Good news and bad news about the grants is the grants got us a lot of cool stuff. The bad news is we had to figure out a way to get it there. And Rick was always the one that would, he may have to take 3, 4, 5 trips back and forth from Boron to get out to the desert to get all of our equipment out there. I mean, he was our key person. I can tell you this last go around, everybody stepped up to help get stuff out there. You know, David was, you know, somewhere he's hiding from me, but yeah, there he is. You know, I don't know, between him and Tex made a bunch of runs. I made a couple of runs. I mean, we all pitched in to get the stuff that we needed. But he was always that person that stepped up to do whatever we needed to do. And then, you know, I'm not sure how much choice he gave Judy, but she did, you know, a lot of feeding of us while we were out there. But he wanted to make sure that, you know, he talked about how he did everything. He wanted to make sure we were all comfortable. He made sure everything was working, you know, and made sure that things were ready to go, so we were out there. Anyways, I probably got off on a tangent, but going back to, you know, I'm going to read some things from some of the search and rescue people and whatnot that are here. But before I get on this, number one, I've got a letter from Matt, and you guys are hiding in the corner. Did he send you with anything, or should I read this from him? Okay. Oh, you want to read it? Oh. All right. So we're going to talk about that. I'll read that in a second. You know, we have representatives here from the Sheriff's Department, plus our volunteer services. Do you guys want to come up and say anything? Otherwise, I'll continue on. It's up to you.
Let the sergeant come.
Yeah. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Joe Salvagno with the Kern County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Unit. This is my partner, Raymond Seibert. On behalf of the Kern County Sheriff's Office, we want to present a memorial plaque to Richard Buckreis' family. Prior to presenting it, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here today. I look around and I see a lot of orange. I know Alan talked about the OHV, your guys' participation at Dove Springs every year. Thanksgiving was my first time ever going and seeing this huge campground that was out there. When I first came over to the unit, I had met so many volunteers. I was overwhelmed. Going out to Dove Springs that day was great because open arms, the desert team welcomed us, treated us like family. I had brought my lunch that day thinking I'm going to eat in the desert somewhere. I threw that lunch away after they gave me a huge portion of food. Judith and Rick were cooking that day. We came back from a long ride, and that's probably one of the best days of my career, just getting to see how everybody interacts and how everybody's family out here. Your guys' volunteer hours just mean so much to us as a community. The visitors, the citizens of Kern County are thankful for you guys. and for Richard and his family. On behalf of the Kern County Sheriff's Office, we wanted to present this memorial plaque. So thank you guys and Richard for his 18 years of dedicated service with the Kern County Sheriff's Office Desert Search and Rescue Team. Thank you guys.
Bravo.
Oh, that's ours.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'll give it. There's
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you guys. The next one I'm gonna read is, it's signed Mojave Sector Rangers from the state parks. So it says that, dear family, friends, and acquaintances, we were saddened to hear of the death of Rick Buckreis and wanted to express our condolences. Mojave Section Rangers appreciated the dedicated service that Rick contributed to the OHV community. Rick was the person we would reach out to when we were in need of medical gear. I know we'll see what we can do, going forward, but he was always happy to assist us in getting certain items donated to us. Some of the gear he was able to donate were Raptor shears, CPR mask, AED pads. Rick was knowledgeable and provided us tips to succeed out in the field when it came to medicals. He treated us like family whenever we would visit Command Center off SC 103 in Dove Springs, and would invite us to join the team whenever they ate a meal. Nobody ever went hungry out there, I can guarantee you that. Rick will be missed. The next upcoming holidays out in the desert and foreseeable future will not be the same without him. Again, we extend our deepest sympathies this period of mourning. Sincerely, Mojave Section Rangers. So, thank you guys. We really appreciate that. I'll try to get. I've got just so you understand just how far-reaching, Rick and his generosity, his wanting to help, that feeling, can be, spread even over the phone, through the grants and some of the things. One of the people that, one of the vendors, if you will, that supplies us with all of our medical gear and has been real helpful at getting us the best prices possible. It turns out that these big companies, when they're fulfilling orders and stuff, about once a quarter, maybe once a half a year, as they're opening things, they got open boxes and everything else, and they if it starts to get close to expiration dates or whatever the case is, I'm not sure exactly what warrants that, they'll package all that stuff up, throw it on a pallet, and they'll donate it somewhere. And for the last couple of years, they've been donating it to us. And we'll get 2 or 3 pallets sometimes from these guys, and it'll show up out at Rick's house, and then we're trying to figure out. They tried to deliver it to my office once, and so we're just going to send you this leftover stuff. I have 3 pallets sitting on the sidewalk. I'm like, oh. I called Rick. I said, I gotta do something, So he came out that afternoon with this trailer, and we loaded everything up. But what's her title? Southeastern account manager. Southeastern. She used to be the Western, she moved. But Sherry Steele at Life Assist has been just a key part of helping us with all this stuff. And it's just been incredible. She actually came out and visited us once, and she got to see that. But let me read what she said for this, because I talked to her today. She's had pneumonia really bad. She called me this morning. She still didn't sound all that great, but I sent you the letter. I sent you that letter, you know, and so I made sure that it was here. So she says, I have so much to say. Here are a few things that I would like to share. I met Rick through some of the search and rescue volunteers within your team. I remember attending a conference out in the middle of the Mojave Desert about 10 years ago. I'm not sure if she called it a conference, but you know. By the way, the conference was not what I was accustomed to in attending. It was not at a Hilton. I'm a retired firefighter and have been camping many times in my life, so it was okay. I was not complaining. It was just in the middle of nowhere, and of course, no Starbucks. So she had come out to Dove Springs with us, just so you understand. I believe that your volunteers had great compassion or pity for me, as they could clearly see I was not dressed in camouflage or military attire like everyone else. Whatever the case may be, I gave them my card and asked to be connected to the person that places orders. About 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, Rick called, and from day one, we became great friends. Rick always called on a Saturday, always around 8:30 a.m. He was up much earlier than that, as everybody knows, so she's lucky. We shared family stories. She knew Judy and Erica through Rick 2 years before actually met them in person. We shared past and present EMS calls in our experience. My Saturday calls with Rick were always a true delight. Since then, I've attended a few of your annual dinners, which is true. I've truly enjoyed hearing the stories and the dedicated volunteers within Desert Search and Rescue. It was a privilege to work with Rick, and I will truly miss my good friend. However, even now as I think of him, I will always smile and remember the time that we spent together on our Saturday mornings and the stories that we shared. Things that I did not know about Rick: he had a lot of chickens. Guess that's from my updates. Things I did know about Rick: that he was passionate and dedicated to the whole team within Desert Search and Rescue, and along with his family, Judy and Erica. Okay, one more thing. He loved my homemade fudge.
Oh.
So, greatest miss, but never forgotten. So, that was from somebody who, you know, started out as strictly a vendor, who actually just, you know, got brought into our family and just, you know, and has been and will continue going forward, always a big help. So, you know, we have a new person at Life Assist that handles our area now, but I can tell you every time that we've had an issue, we call Sherry and all of a sudden the problem's gone. So, you know, it's just been really nice. I'll leave that with you. She's here, but she didn't want to talk. So, a couple of the people that didn't write big long letters, but wanted to make sure that they understood. Everybody here understood that they were thinking about us and they couldn't make it for one reason or another. Talking about, again, the grants. The head the State Department for the OHV grants. His name is Sixto. His right-hand person is Martha, who had worked her way up through the grant process. She was actually started off as our representative there. Debbie was our most recent one. So the three of them, just the new grant cycle has started. We had to go through some training classes. We have to do that every year because of the classes happened to fall on where we're having all those heavy rains and everything else. So they did it all online. So here everybody's online in these training classes, and at some point I had a question. Now keep in mind, every organization, you know, and grants can be law enforcement, they can be nonprofits like us, they can be all these other different things. So all these people are on this training, you know, statewide, and all the state people that are involved in grant are also on this phone call or the Skype or whatever it was. And at one point I had a question, so you know, digitally raised my hand, and Sixto got on there and he goes, you know, Alan, you know, before you ask your question, I just, you know, in the faces of Sixto, Martha, and Debbie all came up, and they took about 2 minutes talking about how sorry they were about Rick, how close, you know, because we work pretty close together with this. So with the entire state of California on this call, they spent 2 minutes talking about how Rick was a great guy and how sorry they would be that they couldn't make it here. And so I wanted to make sure that the family knew, because I actually hadn't shared that till just now, that happened. So again, some of these guys, actually all three of them, have been out to visit us in Dove Springs and had some similar experiences like the sergeants did. But I just wanted to pass that along. SAR people will know Diana Marshall. She used to be search and rescue. She lives in Texas now. She was trying her hardest to get here, but she's having some medical issues. So obviously she didn't show up, but the several phone calls that I had, and with some other people as well, she was trying to. So she wanted to make sure that we pass that along. Kelly Klipnis, another current search and rescue member, is dealing with the passing of both his mother and father, like a month apart. And he was trying to get down here, but I think he called one or both of you. Okay, just so that he could have that private conversation. Just wanted to do that. The last one that I have here is Lena was our old member, but so a lot of you remember her. And you know, again, her and Rick really hit it off, and you know, she came to us. She was the safety manager out at Scaled, yes, thank you. I'm thinking, Mojave, what's out there? She got into search and rescue. She thought it'd be really cool. She jumped in with both feet. It was, you know, really cool to see her get in there and do her thing, and really helped out until, you know, a job opportunity came up and she had to move. But you know, from that point when she moved, because of the interaction, you know, that she had with us, she has carried on and doing search and rescue down there, and she's going to talk a little bit about that. But I'd like to, you know, Rick had a big influence on her, and in the volunteerism and whatnot. So let me just read this. She's saying that she was picking at this letter for some time, finding that she had so much to say, but wasn't sure where to begin. As I type this now, I find myself plopping down in a chair after a long day of search and rescue work, where she's at now. My truck fully loaded up for an event tomorrow. Between the tornadoes in Houston and the search we had on the water last weekend and the various events happening going on, it's been full throttle in the world of search and rescue. Throwing my last pack in the truck, fretting that I have a cooler full of water for the rest of the team, I wondered if this is what Rick always went through as he did his pre-event rituals. Everybody in search and rescue knows that he was the one that brought all the water and Gatorade and made sure that, no one went thirsty. Rick's passing surprised me more than I thought it really would. Maybe it was the lengthy conversation I had with Erica on the phone, or the pain that she felt, or the fact that it was close to the holidays that really got to me. After all, I spent many of my holidays at the Buckreis RV, Food Central, right? Which was a central location for all the Desert Unit folks, where Judy would stuff it full of veggies and enchiladas and pies and what else she could wizard up from her tiny RV kitchen. We broke bread with each other there, sat by the fire together, huddled up at the command post as Don fiddled with the radio knobs. You can't deny that for 6 years of my life, Desert Search and Rescue was a little goofy family. These were some of my best times of my life. Rick had a strong personality, as do most people in search and rescue, but behind that gruff exterior was a secret softie. So we've heard that over and over again. I remember Rick was shoving random gears towards me, as he frequently did. Chairs, lights, medical supplies. They hand me a stuffed bear in a Ziploc bag and gives me a little grin. It's for if we have a scared kid. I still have that bear in a bag in my Texar bag today. Rick's love language was act of service, without a doubt. He may have not been the most emotive or fuzzy person, but the guy played a great Santa Claus. Thinking about Christmas in the small town of Boron this year without Rick, sitting atop a fire truck, adoring the same Santa outfit, kind of crushes me a bit. Luckily, he got to do that one last time before he passed. Rick made sure that I would never went without. There were times when I would be heading back from Dove Springs, and Rick made sure I was topped off with gas. Radio me when you get home was his way of caring. There were times I'd be watching TV at night in my own RV when I'd hear a sound outside. I'd peek out on a few occasions to see Rick topping off my generator for the night, or making sure it doesn't quit on me. He just did those little things for folks. I'm forever grateful for the hot meals, the top-offs, the care, conversation I got from the Buckreis family. Rick was my first partner for search and rescue. Everyone told me I had to survive riding with him in his truck. So I loaded up into that giant dually of his with stacks and stacks of gear jostling around in the back. I never forgot the time that I had to wear Rick's pants for a search once. I had to come up to Dove Springs to get her RV. There's a lot of people might leave their RV, have to go to work or something, and come back. So, and while she was there, she got a call out for a lost family in an SUV. So, and I remember this one. She was wearing shorts, so that wasn't really going to cut it for a search. So there's nobody else around, so I got a pair of Rick's pants and we loaded up in the Jeep. As he raced down LA1 or LA2 to the location, watching a green light stick in the distance, he and I hit a massive wash. I'm talking massive. We damn near jumped the Jeep like we were Evel Knievel, and when we landed, he and I both gave each other this look of holy crap, are we still alive? whiplash was pretty common from Rick Buckreis' car rides. The last I saw Rick was Christmas of 2021 when I drove by the DSAR camp there in Dove Springs. I didn't get him sick. I had planned to swing on by with snacks that year until Omicron rolled out our entire Christmas plan. We at least got to drive around in my truck, isolated from the rest of the public, and what better way to spend Christmas than one more romp through the Dove Springs for old time's sake. And see, that's my old unit I pointed out the window to Megan, her friend that was with her. They're out here every year. I could see Rick doing his usual base camp ritual of working away, keeping everything going. Toiling on the generator, stacking firewood, repacking drinks and supplies, servicing the vehicles. He was always doing something. I think that I might even have seen Jim Osborne look at my truck as I went by waving, like I was a ghost. So, it's so crazy to think that I know some of my random things about Rick, but more so than any other member of the unit. Like the fact if I recall correctly, that he was adopted by military folks back east. I always remembered his birthday because it was right after Christmas. I remember that he was told that he was 99% sure of what his age was because his birth certificate or other associated paperwork had 2 different years on it. You know, he was dyslexic. Maybe that's why he had two titles. And he worked around it. I also was fairly certain, I remember him telling me that he only sleeps 3 hours a night or something crazy. I think I rarely saw that man sit still. Yeah, I don't know how he did it, but he didn't sleep much. Behind me in a shadow box, I have my DSAR uniform on display. It has the black banner across the SAR shield in remembrance of the fallen, where Rick had sadly been added to the ranks of. I was packing my bags this morning after I tore through my supplies, searching for a lost kayaker on the frigid Galveston Bay over the weekend. I don't have much of my DSAR gear left. It's been used for broken or replaced over the years. But I still have a pair of trauma scissors that Rick gave me. A pair of Leatherman Raptors, which at times were the new tech and envy of every EMS professional. I smiled at myself as I packed them away in the spot that they always go. Thanks, Rick. You're always here in the various things I carry in the campfire tales I tell my Texas SAR team. Tomorrow I'll wake up and dawn at dawn and head out to help with tornado recovery efforts and a train of group female scouts on search and rescue in hopes to inspire the new generation of SAR personnel. I was bummed that I wouldn't be able to come back to California to pay my respects and see old Ken, but I have a feeling that tomorrow I'll be right where Rick would expect me to be, continuing the work that he was so passionate about. So she spent a lot of time on that. I want to make sure that I read that. So anyways, you're here in a common thread, and everybody that's talked so far, I think you'll continue to hear that as we go forward. So I'll let you go ahead and see who else wants to talk.
Miss Conway, would you want me to read your letter, what you wrote, or do you want?
Yeah, hey, she
Oh.
said no.
Okay. Isn't this yours?
Yeah, but she said that she didn't want to do it. That's why I gave it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, she said she didn't want to read it.
Okay.
She didn't want you to read it either.
Oh, you don't want me to read it? I can. Okay. That she wrote to Alan saying that I'm a close friend of 20 years with Rick Buckreis. I read your post on his and Judy's Facebook page and wanted to send an email so I could keep up with any information that may become available. Thank you for keeping Rick's friends informed. And I know that a lot of people got on that list and definitely enjoyed getting the updates from the family, because with everything going on, it definitely overwhelmed us at the beginning, and Alan definitely stepped up and made sure everybody was informed. So thank you for doing that list. Right now, I would like to just open it up to anybody who would like to speak. I would greatly appreciate it. If not, I understand, because public speaking is very challenging. Come up, miss. Thank you, Charlene.
Oh, you have to take a class in public speaking to speak to a group like this. I'm Charlene Sims. I'm the treasurer of the Boron Senior Center, and I'm representing the. We have a mic I'd like to use, but I'm representing the Boron Senior Citizens. First of all, I'd like to say that my husband and I were neighbors of the Buckreises, and I think from 1991 is when I bought the property here. Rick did so much for his neighbors, and I remember the first time I met Judy and Rick. They came to our house, and they were asking us to sign a petition or something to change the zoning so they could raise more birds. And of course, we agreed. The only thing that ever bothered me there were the peacocks. When we added a full hookup to our property, and sewer access to our property, the search and rescue group could dump their trailers after being out in the desert, and usually it was, as you know, Dove Springs for the holidays. We were always happy to see them back safe and sound, and also to hear their adventures and who they rescued and what kind of helicopters had to rescue people. I was very happy, and the whole senior citizens were happy that Rick adopted the senior center. He would often stop by after work or on his days off to see what was needed. He could see what needed to be done without me even asking him. He already knew what I was going to ask him. The list is very long on what Rick did for the seniors, including having all of our locks changed. So now I have one key that opens all the doors. Instead of 5. He did a fundraising dinner for us to repair our roof, which we still are in limbo, and he took over commodities, which was what you called the food pantry thing. He did plumbing work for us and found a way to remark our parking lot so that it was in there's a new handicap law, so he made sure that we had the 3 handicap spaces which were required by the new law. He always saw a need, and he did it, and he was so generous with his time. We miss him so much, but we were so glad that we had him for as long as we did. Thank you.
Jim Osborne.
It took about 5-6 years to talk Rick to come in to search and rescue.
Louder.
And it finally took Tex Thomas and David Hill to finally talk him into joining. Well, we have a year that we have probation, that you have to meet certain benchmarks for the county and our team. And I was just a newly elected captain for about the 10th time. And I told Rick I want him to be the
It was a sergeant. Operations sergeant?
no,
Admin.
no, back down. Training officer. And he says, well, I'm not eligible because I'm on probation. And I says, no longer, you're going to be the training officer. He set up a program.
Back up a little bit for the camera. Thank you. I can do that to him.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, not a good idea. But anyway, I wanted to have him set up a training program. And thanks to him, we have one of the better ones in the county. Anyway, he did that for 2 years,
Yeah, I think so.
maybe less. Anyway, the bottom line, once he got the training program set up, he became admin officer. And that's where he was since then. Rick and I used to go out all the time, scoping out Dove Springs, Jawbone, and for people who don't know it, actually Dove Springs isn't our area. It actually belongs to China Lake.
Yeah, it's borderline.
Yeah. Anyway, we started setting up there, I don't know.
10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
We've been up there for years and years now,
Probably
and,
15 years now.
huh?
Probably 15 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we've been doing grants for over 10.
Before '08, before '08, because before I had Kiko.
Okay.
okay. Anyway, the bottom line is I'll miss Rick, because not only was he a co-worker in search and rescue, he was a leader. Sometimes I wondered. But the bottom line is he was a friend. And that's the most important part.
Anybody else would like to speak? Come on, Betty.
Betty, you
Well,
want
I'm
me
gonna try and do this without this. Even wrote everything down to help me out. Okay. You know, when I first met Rick, I was a facility person for 3,000. And I remember I had to take a project into 3,000. I mean, for 3,000 over to PA, and I met him. And I remember taking the project in, meeting him, and he told me, well, that can't be done. And I'm like, well, it's the Air Base Wing Commander. You can't do that. It needs to be done now. It's for an event for him. No.
Talk louder, take.
Oh,
Yell it out, Betty.
okay.
You want your glasses off?
Put my glasses off? Oh my God, you guys.
Start spinning around.
Okay, so I had to take a project for the Air Base Wing Commander to him, because I was the facility manager for the Air Base Wing Commander. And I'll never forget, because I took it in there and I was, you know, hey, I'm the Air Base Wing Commander's facility. This needs to be done now. Yeah. He looked at me and he says, well, you need to do this in advance for such and such amount of weeks. I'm like, no, this is Air Base Wing Commander. You don't, no. He says now, you do it now. No, he's gonna have to wait. Well, let's just say in 2 days, I had that whole project and it shocked the world out of me. He made sure it was done. So that way I didn't get in trouble for this last minute thing, which wouldn't have been my fault, but anyway. But one thing about Rick, in my heart and soul, Rick became my big brother. I never had a big brother. I'm a very emotional person. If I'm pissed, I'm pissed. If I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm sad, I'm sad. Rick and I, boom, boom. But you know what? He accepted me for me. He accepts everybody for themselves.
rich, poor, moody, grumpiness, whatever. He had so much love, even though he hated to show it. And that man, I told him one day, I said, I hope you understand and know I've accepted you and I've adopted you as my big brother, because I have nobody in this world who accepts me as much as you do, who will go fist to fist, face to face with me and fight with me and accept me for me and understand me and understand my emotions when I release them. Because as everybody knows me, especially the search and rescue and folks I work with at Edwards, I'm a pretty emotional person. We'll just say that nicely, because I could be liked or disliked. You accept me for me, or don't accept me at all. But I just wanted to come up and release a little bit and explain how this man was, how he took his family and he adored them, how he took the search and rescue and did everything possible, how he was an outside person that did everything. He would drop things and help people out. I had a family emergency. That man dropped whatever to come out and help somebody he didn't know that was part of my family. He bent over backwards to help people, to do things, because that's who he was. And he will be really, really missed. That's it. I just had to release a little bit. So thanks.
You win.
Takes me a little while, I hadn't even placed it.
That's okay. Take your time, sir.
What do you mean, sir? Come on. You're good. Okay, I have to pick on you as well, because you're in the building that I had it renovated back in 1991, 92.
Wow.
But we'll talk about it. Okay, I'm Bob Vincelette. Some of you from Boron may know me if you've been to Boron football games. I'm the guy who wears the white hat out there and gets yelled at. And I'm going to bring that up because when I come back into work, I would get very good critiques from Rick. He didn't know anything about football or officiating, but I got the critiques. Okay, I came here in 1990, and I took over what it was called the Photo Lab. I renamed it the Audiovisual Center because we did more than photo. And very talented folks. I had both contractors. My graphic shop was civil service, which Rick was there. I already was given a briefing on a lot of the talented folks there, and Rick, the one I got, and one first thing I was told is, yes, he will give you the shirt off his back. He really works. But we're going to talk about his talent, okay? You see some of the talent here. I got to see it every day. Okay, he did great work for everybody. He won awards out there. We got the Air Force Material Command Graphic Shop of the Year because he helped in getting that. We really, Judith, I remember attending your wedding.
Wow.
We had a great time. And it was around here someplace, but
Yep,
yeah.
somewhere.
But it is there, and he was so happy when you were born. Heard all about, so forth. He's just a great guy, but as I said, and I think his humor came from this guy here and myself because because we would definitely have a lot of that stuff. And he came in. I have to tell you a little story. You remember Bob Campbell? Okay, Bob Campbell and I had a policy that said if you thought I was wrong, come in, close the door in the office, and we'll sit down and discuss. Well, our discussion that day didn't turn into a discussion. It turned into a shouting match that you could hear out throughout the building. I got a big voice. So about after that, everything was done. Bob went back to work. Half an hour later, Rick comes running in the office. He says, "Are you firing Bob?" I go, "No." I said, "Why?" He said, "Man, you guys were really into it. He said, what happened? I said, his dumb boss wasn't listening.
Yeah.
He looked at that and he goes, but for that took him into where we've been working on, remember the legendary customer service? I took a course in legendary. He got into that really bad. For the folks that he gave trouble to, that was, that's what we would do. But if I was in charge, he wouldn't have been able to do it because I wouldn't let him. But I'll just leave that one alone. I really loved working with Rick. He taught me how to butcher a turkey. I've been out to for that, so we had a lot of fun. But he was always a great guy. He'd walk into the building, and where my office is where your PA is. I walked, and he would run. I'd be running down the hallway down to Rick, and that Rick would just sit there and laugh. Put the film away. Dennis is coming in. We don't want to fog it. As I said, there's a lot of, we had a lot of fun. Another thing that we used to do, that I would always get in trouble by the colonel. It was all that, because he would drive by and he'd see all the cars in the parking lot. He'd come in, and of course I would work as, overtime as well. But they're not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to, 4:30, they're supposed to be gone. But every one of those graphics folks, Rick was even probably the best one of doing it. He stayed till he got the job done. He was working on something, he didn't want to come back to work on it tomorrow. So they would all get in their car, go out, drive around the corner, watch the boss go home, and the parking lot filled up. And, and you're looking at talent. This was most talent. When I was fair, my first year, we did a Halloween door decoration. My boss sends me around and gives me the award for it. He says to me, congratulations on that. And I said, yeah. I said, this is expected. That's what they're being paid for. They produced and produced. I don't know, do they still have that little display with all the airplanes?
I think I moved.
Museum?
It was, because it was done for General Reynolds. When they went back to, it was, because they all have to give certain things. Rick was instrumental in getting that done. Okay, and that got a lot of comments from a lot of folks, and again, copycats. Everything we got out of here, it was because of the group, because of Rick. Computer graphics, unheard of back in 1992. We were already using Apple Macs for graphics. We went digital. The facility was designed to transition from wet processing to digital. Who was helping me do that? Rick. Because we had a genographic system. That's $1 million system. But he also had, we still have it, or did it there. Remember, we had all the patches, all the archives of patches. That was done, and Rick's the one that did that. And when we transitioned over, which was very difficult, because we had this big, huge system, we had to move all that over into Rick did that. So if anybody tells you that Rick didn't have an impact, he sure had an impact on me, and he had an impact on that base. Made me very proud to have Rick, and he became a friend, a very good friend. So, like I said, look at some of this stuff. I was impressed. I'll stay impressed. Listen.
Does anybody else want to speak? Okay.
Pick up sticks.
Oh, Tex, are you coming up? Tex, were you coming up or no?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Tex Thomas.
Actually, he's a man of few words.
Sometimes. No, I knew Rick and Judy when they first started dating. I'd known them both before, and they were special people, and they got together. And I created havoc every once in a while with the bird business and different things that me and Rick did. Rick was a person that learned from nearly everybody he was associated with. He learned to carpentry and plumbing and everything, and he got good at it. You may have been a pain where you sat a lot of times, but you always had a friend. And all you had to do is ask for help. And sometimes you didn't even have to ask. So Rick will be missed. And I think we're all sitting here understanding that. Everybody. No matter whether it's from work, from search and rescue, from the senior citizens, to the seniors here in town that he helped. Rick will always be there. So he will be missed. It's going to be big shoes for a lot of people to try to fill. So I just want to tell Judy and Erica that they both know I think their family's special. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. Buckreis.
I've known the family for years. My children sat on Rick's lap for Christmas, and they're in their 40s now. Every time I had an emergency at my home, being there by myself, I called the family, and they would come help me. My carport was falling down. Rick picked it up. I had a horse passing, and that wouldn't come out, and Rick would handle it for me at 3 in the morning, didn't matter. And but the one facet that no one's mentioning, that maybe he helped Moron High School and the Yurok Unified School District, because he couldn't stand waste. And every time he saw that there was something the military was going to throw out, computers, paper, rolls, stacks of paper, oh my God, he'd call me up with the proper paperwork, and I'd go out there with my truck, and he'd load it in, and I'd take it into whatever high school or the district office that needed it. And he did that for years, and I haven't heard that mentioned, but he always did the paperwork for it and made sure that we got to use something that was going to be thrown away or wasted. And I know myself and Anna called on him. We lived out there with our animals, and if it hadn't been for Rick, I don't know what we would do. But that's all I wanted to say.
Anybody else want to speak? Okay. Next, we're going to move into the slideshow, please. If we could dim the lights once he gets it set up. Wait 1 second, let him get it set up, and then we'll dim the lights. And then that's fine. It's still good enough to see, so the presentation will be on this side. And while David,
You want to adjust the screen for me?
and then while they're doing that, I would like to put another thank you out that I had people from all across the United States that I knew, and several people who didn't even know my father, never met him, only knew him through me, of my stories. And I had people that was willing to come from New York, Maine, come out just to support me. And I've had a lot of support, including Eric, which is a new coworker to me, that he helped with this video in Texas. You know, he's like, what can I do? You know, and a lot of people here stepped up and asked, what could we do? And this is one of the things of even a person that didn't even know my dad. And he was greatly honored because of how much he could just see in these photos of how much of an impact he made. Unfortunately, he was normally behind the camera instead of in front of it. So I didn't have a lot of photos unless it was specifically at scenes or events or me taking photos. So there's probably going to be about 75% of the time he's going to be in orange, because that's just how I was able to capture his memories. I hope everybody enjoyed that slideshow, that it definitely felt like it was a full circle of my father. That even here, I know that people didn't know his side of search and rescue or his side at work. You know, he definitely had ties to so many different people, and a lot of people didn't know the full Richard Buckreis. And luckily, there's several people here that did know the full him. And so he was always one that he was willing to learn, and he was always trying to do better, not for just himself, but also the community. And just to make sure his resources, his knowledge, could make a difference to help just even one person or as many as possible. So he made sure that there was always teachable moments to anybody and everybody, and especially, you know, if he thought you were willing to learn and everything, he would make sure that he took time out of his busy schedule to teach people how to do that process, to make it easier, to make a difference. Because there's several people that you could go to and just, here it is, XYZ, where my dad would do A, B, C, this is how you do it. Maybe, you know, O sometimes went before M because of this reason or that reason. So he was always that person that was always caring. And definitely, the more you got to know him, he was definitely, you know, the Grinch, even though he was Santa also. That, you know, that hard exterior, but once you actually chipped away and got to know him, his heart actually looked like it grew over time. And so I definitely just want to thank everybody that I knew that I had family here that wasn't just blood, that got adopted by either myself, my mother, or my dad. Just extended family, because we always wanted a bigger family. And I even knew that there was some support, but there was people, even a couple days ago at the Air Force celebration, that came up to me and said, oh, your father was like a father to me, or I was like a nephew to him, or, you know, big brother. All these people that, like, I knew that there was, you know, I had extended family, but I didn't know that he made even more of an impact. And, like, even Carol, that's running the video right now, which I greatly appreciate and thank her for her support, that she even came up and said that my father was like a father to her. So it's definitely, this is bringing, you know, the family together, this event. And I greatly appreciate everybody attending. There is a few requests from the family. The first off, I mean, you saw the slideshow and it was great, but if there's any photos that you have of my father, please get them to either Alan or myself so we don't lose those. Second is we are requesting anybody that wants to share memories, like I know that it's very hard to come up here, that afterwards myself and the family will be up here, that you could definitely come and share memories. I'm going to be voice recording so we remember, or if you do not want to speak, there is the memory book, but also cards that you can definitely sit down and write. And even if you need to take them home or, you know, write at home, just get those cards or letters back to either Alan or myself. Okay. Then I just want to thank everybody for attending. That I knew that my dad affected so many people's lives, but hearing these stories just proved to me not just his actions, because I always knew he helped this group or that group, but these memories actually did go into more of the motives or understanding what he did and the impact that he made. So I greatly appreciate everybody who attended. So I would like Chaplain Sylvia to come up again, and if you could come and just say a prayer before we go and eat, that just before everybody gets up, there is cookies and cheese and hors d'oeuvres in the back, or to the side at this door, and then in the back will be the main meal.
Don't you have beach cobbler too that got donated?
I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's back there.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So
yeah.
between those two places, there's food. We make sure that you guys didn't leave hungry once again.
You might.
I'm always the one that, no matter if it was high school, you know, graduation or
Graduation.
parties, college party, even at Michelle's, that, you know, I was the one going around, thank you know, the main runner of events. And, you know, I finally make it to the grill to get food, and my dad had already given the food away. If it was going to the Elks or this or that, it was already bagged, already. And he's like, I'll go and buy you Burger King or whatever. of like, oh, make sure that you eat. Can we go and get a plate? No, there should be a plate reserved for me. It got you. And I was like, by the time I was able to sit down and get my food, and I didn't have anything, so just another memory.
Learn from your mistakes.
So I'm hoping maybe today I'll get food. If not, I will be going to Carl's Jr. and getting food.
I ate it Wednesday.
What was it?
I ate it Wednesday.
Okay.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for these remembrances that we have of Rick's life. I give you praise for each and every person. He's tucked in to our hearts. We give you praise for this life that he has lived with us and for us. Now we ask that you bless this time of celebration as we partake together. We ask that you bless it, that indeed we will be stronger to serve you and to serve one another. And we give you thanks for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Sylvia. Everybody, I just want to make sure that come and see the artwork that we have up here. If anybody can point out the mistake on this middle photo, definitely let me know. That I'll definitely give you a congratulations. This is an award that was, he won second place in this category in Japan in high school. And the reason why he didn't end up first was because of the mistake that's in it. And then we have awards of his accomplishments on the front table. So thank you everybody for attending.
It's interesting. I can't say I didn't know he did in high school. I didn't know this about him. I wasn't Yeah, it's like every day. He never bragged about what he could do. It's incredible. Most people would, so it's amazing. All right.
We didn't win, pal.
I'm gonna let this just run.
You know, you sure ain't put that into work, you don't look too bad. You know, Helen Handband flashed through my mind. I don't know. That's a really good question. Some people are stepping up to the plate. Some people are...
And then subscribe. All that's Lindy dots. That's Lindy dots. Like he literally got it. He did every dot. I never really had that until I mean, I'm more of a painter. I went at the people.
Was to the families well, test about starts the date of the resolution. They're going to come out and raise their hand on this. They're going to go back over and talk about it. Why not equip them with the key verses? Why not let them know what's important to us? And for many years, we did those on Saturdays. What's the better way to what God said that way? Because no, I did. There's no one here for the environment. Yeah, that's pretty funny. What it is suicide league. Don't worry about it. No. Can I tell you about the story? That's why you didn't come today. That's why you can't really tell.
Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm her or anything, but I know that she's appreciating.
Oh, yeah, well, yes, they were dilute. Kodak said over and over again, it's no problem. They developed that.
I knew this